Okay. I'm here today with the 2011 recipient of the AMS Teaching Excellence Award, Henry Fuelberg with Florida State University. And I wanted to find out if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, the nature of your research at Florida State, the number and nature of the meteorology classes you teach, and the number of undergraduate and graduate students you directly work with.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in southeast Texas, a little town of 5,000 people. And I went to school at Texas A&M University, and I got my PhD in 1976. And then I taught at St. Louis University for 7 years, and for the past 21 years I have been at Florida State University. And I teach all sorts of classes, anywhere from classes for non-science majors all the way up to graduate level courses in mesometeorology. But anyway, the main areas of focus I would say are synoptic meteorology and mesometeorology. And teaching has always been my first love. Back in high school, I decided, hey, I didn't want to, just be a meteorologist, but I found out that I enjoyed teaching. And so I was able to merge the two by, being an academic. So the classes that I teach range anywhere from an enrollment of maybe 200 undergraduates that don't plan to major in the field at all, but just have to satisfy a size requirement, on down to graduate classes that might only have a dozen students in it. So that would be the classroom aspect of it, and then I have the one-on-one teaching that that I do with graduate students. And so over the years now, I haven't counted the last year, but I think I'm up to 85 students now that I have mentored for either a master's degree or doctorate.
Very impressive. You've been with Florida State since 1985, correct?
Right.
Tell us a little about your philosophy in developing it and maturing your research program while you've been there.
Well, I've always been interested in synoptic meteorology, but in this day and time, you sort of have to have a niche. How do you apply synoptic meteorology? And I was fortunate enough to get involved in a NASA program that has to do with atmospheric chemistry. And not that I'm an atmospheric chemist, but these projects have to do with the long-range transport of various species in the atmosphere. And so I was able to use my background in meteorology in order to be able to understand the transport. So that has probably covered me over about the past 16, 17 years. They have these projects about once every other year, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved in them. And it's taken me to places around the world that I would never go on my own. They're all airborne projects, so I get to fly and forecast and that type of thing. So that has been a major part of my research in about the past 15 years or so. And then the other half of me is a mesometeorologist, and lately most of that has concentrated upon lightning. And I don't deal in the physics of lightning, but I try to understand how can we make better forecasts of when lightning is going to start and when is the lightning from a given storm going to stop. And as kind of a side note to that, with all the lightning data that we now have access to, is there anything in lightning data that we can plug into the models to make better forecasts? So that is one of the projects that I'm working on, data assimilation of lightning. And how can we better use lightning data to improve forecasts of hurricanes? So I'm kind of tackling lightning from a lot of different ends, but they're more the practical aspects, you know, the forecasting aspects and such, rather than what makes a lightning bolt.
I see. And so those two facets, the atmospheric transport and then mesometeorology, is that what those are the niches you were talking about that attract the graduate students that come to your program at Florida State? They seek you out specifically for that, or are they kind of a mix of people?
It works both ways. Some students seek me out, and in other cases I seek them out. So it's very much a two-way street. So, for example, last night, you know, at the Student Career Fair, there were quite a number of students that, you know, actually wanted to talk to me because they find thunderstorms and lightning to be very, very interesting, and just like I always have. So, in some cases, though, once we make contact, then I decide, well, I'm going to, you know, really go after this person because I think they would make a really good team member.
Okay.
And I think it's very important that the student be comfortable with, you know, with the faculty member, and also vice versa. So if it's someone who is at Florida State that I have had in class, well, then I already know, you know, a lot about it. If it's somebody outside of Florida State, then we need to have a series of chats and emails to really get acquainted with each other. Because, as I said, I think it's very important that we sort of approach life from the same points of view. And if a student and major professor don't have the right kind of relationship, it turns out not being good for the student or for the research.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time and thought into which are the students that I would like to work with, and I hope that they take a similar approach.
Springboarding off of that, your website, on your website, you indicate that you consider your graduate students to be like family.
That's right.
And I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that, and also tell us, what does that mean for the experience that you can offer your students? Well,
first of all, I'm an only child, and I've always been single, and so besides my cat, I guess the students are the closest thing that I have to family, other than cousins. And that affects the way that I work with the students, and that I'm not just thinking about what can they produce, but how can I bring out the best in them? How can I give them the most opportunities, whether it's going to conferences or being involved in, writing proposals, but things that I know about that they might not know about, to try to expose them to all of these things so that they can go as far as they can, both at FSU and in their future career. So I'm not, how do I put this? I am interested in them as a person besides just in their work ethic.
I see.
So I think that separates me from at least some other faculty members.
Well, it certainly shows with the award. What advice do you provide your graduate students when they begin their studies and research? What do you tell them to motivate them, get them started?
Well, I think first of all they need to understand just how the game is played. For example, NASA, NOAA, or NSF, they have given me an award because I have written an adequate proposal, and therefore there is research that needs to be done, and I am going to give them part of that research to do as part of their thesis research. And that if we do a good job, that's going to look good for them. It's going to look good for me. It's going to look good for the entire team, and that paves the way for having future money, and so that future students can also be helped, so that they really understand that the money doesn't just fall out of the sky, and at the same time that they're going to play a vital role in it. We're going to work together, but they will do a lot of the hands-on work. And so I think if people feel that they're an important part of something, that they will be more highly motivated. And to drive home that point, I always try to bring as many students as I can to conferences, so they can see just how everything works, and that you do need to do a good job, and that you do need to be able to back up all of your results and defend them and everything. And it's one thing for me to say it, but it's another thing for them to actually see it, to see someone give a paper and then have to answer questions about it. So it's just kind of preparing them for the real world, and that if you have an RA slot, it's kind of like a job, or at least it's training for the real world.
Okay. And then for the undergraduate students, what guidance did you give someone in the undergraduate program who might be struggling with the demands of the meteorology program? And I'd imagine that there are some.
There are definitely some. And the big problem is mathematics. And as we all know, mathematics is a very important part of meteorology, and yet there are quite a number of aspiring meteorologists that aren't very strong in mathematics. And we try to counsel students like that if we see that their math grades are weak, and see what the problem is that they haven't put out their best effort. If so, well, you need to. And if they have been putting out their best effort, then we really need to discuss whether this is the right field for them, because it's only going to get harder as they get into their junior and senior years. And we don't want to find students in situations where, okay, now they're in their senior year and they don't have the right GPA, and so they won't be able to graduate. They'll have to get into something else after having already spent a bunch of years thinking they're going to be a meteorologist. So I think the important part, is to monitor the students and try to get the undergraduates to go to their advisors first of all. Students don't want to go to their advisors. They think they have all the answers and everything, and it's easy to get the courses out of sequence, and it's always good to get advice. You can find out what the student is interested in and what their goals are and what kinds of electives they might be able to take, to reach those goals. But the subject of grades always comes up, and the weaker students, we definitely encourage them to seriously think about whether this is a major for them.
When you first learned that you were going to receive this award, what was your reaction?
Well, I was very happy, and I was very humbled, and I just thought, well, all of the extra hours that I put, working with students, say instead of postdocs, for example, it does take extra time, and it takes extra time working with undergraduates. So at any one time, I might have 2 or 3 undergraduates. Well, they take time, and you think to yourself, well, this has been recognized, and that is nice. So that sort of goes through your mind as well. But it's fun work. I always enjoy working with students. I've always considered myself to be more of a teacher than an actual researcher, because the research that I do, is working with the students on a one-on-one basis. So I've always thought of myself as a teacher. And so of all the awards that the AMS could give me, this is actually the one that that I would be the most proud of.
As you move forward with this award in hand, what vision do you have for the research program's future at Florida State?
I can't say that I'm going to work with more students because I think I'm working with as many students as I can right now. But just to basically keep on the way I have been doing, to work with as many students that I can at any one time, and just to never lose sight of the fact that working on a graduate degree is really training for the future, and any way that I can help a student, I should try to do that, even if it puts me out some. And that's always been the way I have thought of it, that I'm going to have to put myself out at times. I might have to read a thesis or do something at a time that really isn't convenient. I'd rather do something else. But it's important that it be done now rather than to offer up an excuse. But to just keep on that route and think of myself as putting out a little extra effort, but it has a big payoff in terms of a student's future career. So anything I can do in that regard, that's what I'm going to try to keep on doing and make sure that I don't lose sight of.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you for your time, and congratulations again on your award.